All right. Awkward beginning. Awkward beginning. Awkward. All right. This is.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we are truly live. No messing around. This is Jack Mangan. How you doing? I am.
Rich Catino.
Yeah, I got Rich Catino. I am rocking the Oceans of Slumber shirt today. But yeah, otherwise, you know me, Jack Mangan from Am I Evil, putting out the Am I Evil graphic novel, which, you know, hopefully you're all going to support. We go live to Indiegogo next month in September. And also I do a lot for MetalAsylum.net and the Metal Hall of Fame. That's me. Rich, tell us about your WASP shirt and who you are.
I am Rich Catino from the Metal Hall and from MetalAsylum.net, and I write for Brave Words magazine as well. And oddly enough, I picked an old school WASP shirt from the first album, which came out August 17th, a couple days ago. It had an anniversary, so strange that I picked this one. Totally forgot that. I knew it came out the other day, but I didn't connect it to what I was wearing today. So there you go.
All right.
And our guest, we are with us.
Our guest, yeah, we were really honored and privileged today to talk to you're really one of my favorite people in prog metal today. It's an amazing musician, amazing guy. I'm really honored. I'm gonna let him speak for himself. Farhad, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking time.
Thank you very much. That's an amazing introduction. I'm quite humbled at best. Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me. You've got great taste in music, man.
Of course.
Jack always finds these interesting different bands that not too many people know the name, and they're brand new and they only got a couple albums out. It's kind of unique and sometimes progressive and avant-garde and different things like that. So it was a nice find to find you guys. You know, I got into listening to your stuff because of him. So
very cool. Thanks for spreading the word. You know, we're a tiny little microscopic footprint in that prog world. So that's great to hear stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I could start with that question. How do you feel you fit into the prog world? Because you have 2 albums out. You guys have been around for how long?
Since 2015 or 2014. Okay. So yeah, 6 years now. I mean, we all kind of grew up to a lot of that prog stuff, you know, like when Dream Theater came out, Images and Words, that pretty much changed all of our lives going forward. And that's pretty much the same story for a lot of the kids that listen to prog now, or I guess they're not even kids anymore now. If you listen to Dream Theater when Images and Words came out, you're probably around my age and you know, like starting to get gray hairs and things like that. But as far as fitting into the prog genre, it's weird because most of the reviews we get, we're either not prog enough or not even metal for that matter. Like sometimes we're too heavy. We're a heavy metal band. We're an alternative metal band. We're an alternative prog band. So we get labeled all kinds of stuff. But the basic prog stuff is always going to be there. There's the odd time stuff, thematic things, conceptual things, you know, long extended musical passages and things like that. I don't think we're really breaking any new ground when it comes to like prog. My focus is just basically like, you know, writing good songs, and all of that prog stuff just kind of finds its way in. But it's a lot of the songwriting elements are coming from like 80s pop songs, believe it or not, like, you know, big hooks and things like that. You know, I listen to a lot of new wave and things like that. I have no shame, you know, I just put whatever I am inspired by and plop them into a Shumaun song. So I guess that's what makes it kind of progressive. I guess it's a little different, maybe. I don't know.
What I hear in your stuff too, like I share the song "Keep It Together" today.
Right.
Like I hear some just straight up AOR rock too.
Yeah, for sure. And the vocals come across like that, I guess. That's a lot of the comments are like the AOR vocals. "Keep It Together" is like, it's basically a pop song, really. With a little bit of odd times in there, which was by accident. But yeah, it's a straight up pop song. I was pretty reluctant to put it on the record, actually. I was talking to Naveed from Iris Divine. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them. They were a band that I was in previously, but they're continuing.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with the name. Yeah.
Yeah, so he pretty much convinced me. He was just kind of like, yeah, you know, it's a good song. You should include it. I thought it was a little bit too different. But then when he told me that, I was just like, what the hell? Prog, screw it. Throw it in there. Let's see what happens.
It's kind of all it's kind of all in the same family anyway. You know, a little bit of prog and a little bit of AOR, and because you got the harmonies and the melodies and the smooth vocal, so it's not really too far. You know, it still blends in. You know.
Yeah, it's just when you're the person writing it, you have no idea. You can't think, about the song like the listener would. So I had all kinds of doubts and questions. Right. Is it even good? It doesn't make sense. If people listen to that, will they even listen to anything else? Will they even give us a chance? And then you've got like prog snobs that are like, oh, well, this isn't like Dream Theater or whatever. So, right. But you just got to like block all that out and just release whatever you release, Because
Dream Theater has that side too. They have their AOR rock side as well.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and actually, this is leapfrogging. I wanted to get to this later, but we'll ask it right now since we talked about AOR and 80s pop. You've been doing some interesting covers, the quarantine covers you've been doing, like George Michael, This Mortal Coil, some really interesting stuff. So, talk to us a little bit about that, about your collaborator, and how that's kind of been going. It seems like it's been fun, if nothing else. But tell us,
that's basically what that was. So, Shumaun was working on their third album and it was supposed to be out this September. And like my goal was, okay, we released One Day Closer to Yesterday last year in 2019. I really wanted to be a band that was able to release a follow-up a year later, kind of like those old bands from, the 70s who would just, constantly put out records. That didn't happen. COVID obviously changed the game. And a lot of the folks in the band can't record remotely. So they'd have to come here. So we couldn't do anything really. I was just sitting on a bunch of songs. So I didn't want to wait. So I pretty much recorded all of the guitar parts, the keyboard parts, and the vocal parts for the record to a click, which is going to make our drummers work a nightmare because he has to completely lock down to a click now. It's not us locking down to him. But I'm kind of stuck, so I couldn't really do much more. And I didn't really want to write that much more for an album 4. Without making too much progress with the current one. So I was like, let me just do a cover. We're in quarantine. I'll do a quarantine cover a week. And that's how it started. I did Tracy Chapman's Fast Car just to see if I could, because I never really recorded myself playing, drums or anything like that. So I was like, let me just play everything and release it and just see how it goes. And it was received pretty well. I mean, yeah, I don't really have a big following, so I didn't expect a ton of people to watch it. But I had no intention of doing it weekly at that time, but the people really liked it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just pick a cover, something really simple that I like that I can knock out in a week. And generally, I would start on a Friday and release a song on a Sunday, and then the George Michael Pray for Time. I did Bjork, some random stuff, and then so I also sing in a cover band called Screaming Monkeys, and Bill, who played keyboards in it. We started collaborating a little bit more and started re-recording some of the stuff that we played in the cover band. And I love Bill to death. He's a super talented keyboard player. He's a programmer. He can nail the sounds of like 80s synth stuff like to the T. So we did a Tears for Fears cover and it worked out really great. So at that point, I just made that decision. I was like, okay, Bill, from now on, you're going to be playing keyboards on all of these cover songs. And he was totally game. And then we did Bohemian Rhapsody, which turned out pretty awesome. Right now, we're working on a Pink Floyd cover for High Hopes.
Nice.
So that'll be cool. I just finished mixing it actually. So that's going to be really cool. But I had no idea we were going to be in quarantine this long. I mean, the whole thing was like, there's going to be 4 weeks, and there's going to be 4 songs, and that'll be it. And we are like week 20 or God knows what. So right now, it's not a song a week. It's more like whenever we get it done. I think it was like 3 weeks ago that I did the last quarantine cover, which was When in Rome's The Promise, which is like a new wave pop song from like 1989. So it's definitely not a weekly cover anymore. It's just whenever we can put it out now.
Yeah.
There's no way it's sustainable. Yeah. Especially when you have a life, so.
Sure. I can't say I've heard every single one. I'll check out the When in Rome one. But yeah, the Tears for Fears one I heard, and you're right. It sounds I'm glad I think one of you guys came on at the end and said, hey, this was us, because it sounded so close to the original to make sure that people didn't think he was doing a karaoke track, because it was so damn close. It was really impressive.
Bill's programming was just amazing. I was like, when I was listening to it, I was just like, dude, this sounds too much like the real thing. People are gonna just like think we're just like singing to a backing track, so we have to like let that be known. You know, we actually created all the sounds and everything from scratch. You know, if we weren't messing around. You know,
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why we put it on there. But people actually really like that portion of the video, which is pretty awesome. Even people that aren't musicians, to just grasp how we create sounds and things like that, to get a deeper dive into, you know, how we create these sounds for these 80s songs. But it was good times. It's fun, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I've enjoyed. I would recommend if you're watching, yeah, go and check it out. It's like my personal favorite so far. Believe it or not, you know, metal guy has been the George Michael. I thought that was just amazing.
Awesome.
It's a great song, and you nailed it. Yeah. So yeah, don't punch my metal card, Rich. You know, but that's
no, you know, like Ultra Club is one of my favorite like 80s bands. So you can I can't say anything at this point.
Very nice. All right. Yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of questions, Rich, but yeah, fire away, Rich. I know you've got some stuff too.
Okay. The last album, One Day Closer to Yesterday, came out. Jack, you reviewed it last year, but it came out in 2018 or 2019?
That was a 2019, right? It was, yeah, it was. Yeah, I've got the review up.
It came out in February of last year. The review was probably, I don't remember when the review was actually. Probably January. Okay. I'm not sure.
Oh, that was a typo on my part.
Yeah. So before the COVID hit, were you able to do some touring that year for the album?
We didn't really do tours. We did, you know, one-off shows in the DC area. All the touring plans that we had, they all just kind of fell through. There's a local band called Brave. That's a prog rock, prog metal band who we've been playing shows with for years. We were planning an East Coast tour, but you know, venues were just double booked, or you know, things didn't work out. So we just stuck to like individual shows in the DC area, DC, Virginia, Maryland area. We had maybe like 3 or 4 this year that we had to cancel due to COVID, but we didn't get to like properly promote it with like a East Coast tour or anything like that. Which is kind of sad, because I was really looking forward to that.
Right.
Well, since
you guys are... Sorry, go ahead, Rich.
Since your inception, what kind of touring have you done?
We didn't really do any long tours. If anything, it was just like weekend stuff. You know, right. we haven't done like, you know, take a week off kind of thing, which I would like to do. We just haven't had the right opportunity to do that. And we want to play shows a little bit more strategically, rather than just do a tour for the sake of doing a tour and you're playing in some random bar in like, right. You know, Delaware, where, you know, if you're lucky, there's like 5 people there.
Yeah.
And so we're not, you know, we're not doing this professionally. We all have jobs and things like that. So we have to balance all of that.
Yeah.
You know, you can imagine a prog metal band, even a successful one, isn't really that self-sufficient when it comes to money and things like that. You know, it's like Dream Theater is like the biggest one that's contemporary, and the next tier under that is like a million tiers below them when it comes to like financial gain. So we're not expecting any kind of financial gain as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, it's a tough world for musicians. You know, I mean, I know that's you know, it's those days of cocaine and limousines that are way behind us all. But yeah, we all missed it. But now you guys are,
or maybe there'll be another boom after COVID because everybody's going to be looking to get out and go crazy.
That's true.
There you go. Yeah. But so you guys are an indie outfit, right? I mean, you guys are. Tell us a little bit about who, you know, your reps and you know, your histories with record labels and that kind of stuff, and what the third album is going to be. When, you know, are you guys doing this indie? You guys working with anyone outside of your camp?
I think I pretty much like. I'm cool with doing it indie. We've had a label interest for the last 2 albums, but they can't really provide us with too much nowadays. So, So basically, my only need for a label, I mean, at the level that we're at, because we can't go off and do a tour for like a month or 2. We're just not in that place in life. So we wouldn't really benefit a label. And outside of promotion and distribution, and that's kind of what I would seek a label for. But then if we're not really benefiting them from a touring aspect, it doesn't make sense for them financially either. So this wouldn't work out. So I'm pretty content doing it as indie as possible. It'd be great to have a distribution company. We've had Just for Kicks Music for our first 2 records, and they're based in Germany. So it's nice because we don't have to ship across Europe. They just go directly to Just for Kicks, which is a German company. I think they're in Germany. But yeah, I mean, if there's a label that reaches out, I'll probably reach out to a few just to see what offers are on the table. But I'm not really, expecting much, especially nowadays. Even with the label, you're not really getting as much as you would, in days past. And the little money that we would make, at least we get to keep that now versus a label taking, whatever 60% of it or whatever that number is.
Sure. So I mean, I'll just throw it out. That's interesting. What you're saying about touring. It's a little like you guys are like the REM of the prog world. Just everything recorded and not doing as much touring. But
yeah, I mean, I would love to tour. I would love to tour, honestly, but it just has to be viable for all of us. And it's if it was just me, I would probably tour more, but there's 3 other guys in the band, and to get schedules to align, and it just has to make sense financially as well. I mean, if anything, we lose money in this, and we expect it. We do have day jobs, so that pretty much funds this. And 3/4 of Shumaun are in a cover band, and that's how we make money in music. Basically, it's a cover band circuit. But even it's done for the year. We've canceled all of the shows for that band too. So, as far as making money on music, it's just kind of like nothing at this point.
Gotcha. So we have a question in on Facebook, by the way. I think the question was meant for me, but Dean Michael says, "How does Farhad keep his hair so sleek and sexy?" That's what Dean Michael says.
Oh, only the freshest fruits and berries, man. You got to squeeze them in there. Yeah. Head and shoulders. I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, but it's all right.
Awesome, by the way, Dean Michaels, he's an awesome guitar player. Just so you guys know.
Okay. Cool. All right. All right, Rich. So what else? Like I said, I got a million questions, but go ahead, Rich. What else you got?
Who has your voice been compared to? Because I can throw out a name right away. See if you feel the same way.
Freeze? No.
Definitely Ray Alder. You're like the son of Ray Alder.
Yeah, I get that quite frequently. Ray Alder. Like, I think like 80% of the reviews we get, I get compared to Ray Alder, which is great.
Are you a big Fates fan?
I am a Fates fan. More later in the game, I became a Fates fan like when Pleasant Shade came out. So I mean, I appreciate the John Arch stuff, and he's got such a unique voice, and I love that stuff. Yeah, I gravitate more towards the Ray Alder stuff, just because and that's how it is. Like when you're younger, you just gravitate to the stuff you listen to at the time. So it brings back those memories. Pleasant Shade, I think it's like one of the greatest prog albums of all time. Honestly.
Absolutely, yeah, love that album.
So I don't mind it at all, but it's
great. A great comparison.
I'm trying. I'm not trying. I'm not trying to sound like him at all.
Yeah, that is a good call for sure. And while we're on it, let's just geek out about. I mean, I know you probably every time you're interviewing people say, "What are your influences?" So sure, go there. But I mean, who else do you really like? I mean, tell us just about some of your favorite bands that you like to listen to, or bands or artists that you really admire.
I mean, Rush is a huge one. Obviously, that's just kind of like growing up. They pretty much changed my life. It's just like, wow, you could play guitar without playing power chords. That's amazing. So Alex kind of like shifted the way I play. So Rush is a huge. Metallica, like probably all of us, growing up, we were just learning all of the Metallica riffs we possibly can. So they were huge. Before I even played guitar, Def Leppard was really big on me. And that's
which era?
What's that?
Which era?
So when I was a kid, the first record I ever bought was Pyromania.
Yes, that
was much later. But then Hysteria was the big one for me because that's when I was getting into music. So that pretty much like this was like I want to be a rock star when I grow up because of Def Leppard Hysteria. Yeah. That didn't quite work out, but they were a huge influence on me.
That's a good cutoff point because after that, from Adrenalize on, it started going on.
Yeah, I didn't mind. What was it, Adrenalize too much? I was still young when Adrenalize came out, so I was still kind of like, it's great. I mean,
it's okay.
Things after that for sure, kind of like maybe a song.
After that, they shit the bed.
Yeah. Euphoria, or was it Euphoria? I think was it Euphoria?
Well, a couple songs on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. But they did what they did, so you can't take that away from them. So they were really big on for me, and the big hooks and things like that, the harmonies and stuff like that. I think I've carried over into Shumaun.
Sure.
Dream Theater obviously changed everything for me when I was in the 9th grade or whatever. When I don't remember when Images and Words came out. I wasn't in the 9th grade when that album came out, but that's when I was really into them. Let's see here. Tears for Fears is like one of my favorite bands of all time. That probably doesn't come through in Shumaun's music. Maybe it does from the pop elements, but they're one of the big ones for me for sure. As far as contemporary bands, Anathema, I really like them a lot. I don't really listen to a lot of the more heavy bands. I generally gravitate to melodic bands with singers more than growlers. Pantera being an exception to that. And occasionally there'll be a song that comes out and I'm like, wow, this is amazing, and it's all growling, but generally stick to melodic music. And then all that whole like 80s new wave pop stuff, I'm really big on, because that's what I grew up on. All genres, 80s metal, 80s new wave, punk, whatever it is, even hip hop for that matter. I gravitate towards that 80s stuff a lot. So some of that probably translates over subconsciously.
That's cool. Yeah, I kind of come from the same place. Actually, I was rereading. So we interviewed you in 2015 for the first album, and we talked a little bit about, covered some of this ground. And it was interesting. You said about Opeth that you preferred their. I think you said some. I've got it in front of me. You said, "I'm going to get crucified for saying this, but I prefer the prog era stuff." But I'm kind of, I'll keep my opinion out of it. But what do you? Can you elaborate on that a little bit about your Opeth fandom over the years and where they've been?
Yeah, again, I'll go back to Naveed from Iris Divine. He played me, I think it was a Deliverance. And, I was like, wow, this is great. And then I just, I didn't even care so much for it. Is it Deliverance? I don't remember what it was, but despite the fact, it's before they became, I guess, Prog Rock. They were, I guess, technical prog death metal band or something. And they just fell off the radar for me. And then I came across, I don't even remember what the song was, but I was like, this is a path. I was like, this is not my memory of them. And that's when I started diving into them. I'm like, this is like Camel, like contemporary Camel and stuff like that. So I got into Opeth in their prog stage or whatever, where they are right now. I never got into them before. I'm sure if I liked them prior to that, I would probably think they're boring now or something, like most of the fans think. But I know a lot of Opeth fans that aren't really happy about, Ackerfeld not really growling or anything.
The evolution of it.
Yeah.
I like the new stuff a lot too, and I was there. I kind of got into them shortly before Watershed, maybe I'm not representative of all Opeth fans either, but yeah, I like that stuff a lot. But I do want to ask one more quick question, since you mentioned Camel. I mean, how do you like the 70s, the older, like the OG prog stuff, like Yes or King Crimson? Are you into that stuff too? Is that in there?
Say I'm more into the prog rock stuff than I am the prog metal stuff. Like Dream Theater being one of the few bands that I listen to a lot that's considered prog metal. Fate's Warning being another one, but there's a whole slew of prog metal bands that for me, it just doesn't do much, because it all starts sounding like Dream Theater to me. Like, Let's See How Fast We Play and all the odd time stuff, which we do too. So, I'm not trying to say we're different than that. We do that for sure. But it's just kind of like, if I want to listen to that, I'll listen to Dream Theater. But the prog rock stuff, like Genesis, Yes, Camel, all that stuff, Marillion, the new wave of prog in the 80s. I listen to that far more than any prog metal. So more of my influences are definitely coming from that. The metal influences I have are coming from like Maiden and Metallica and Megadeth and things like that. I don't even listen to that much metal now. Like, so when I listen to metal, it's the stuff I listened to when I was a kid, which is a sure sign that I'm just way too old now, because I don't even care for new metal music. I'm just like, let me listen to Kill 'Em All again, which is kind of sad that I'm in that box right now. I mean, occasionally I'll go to like Spotify just to see if I can find something a little different. But I mean, that's how I found Anathema, really, because when I first listened to Anathema, I think they were like a black metal band or something. I don't shoot me. I don't remember. I don't really know all the subgenres of the metal.
Yeah, it's all good. All good.
They're completely different now. So I like the newer Anathema versus the older Anathema, just like Opeth. Catatonia.
What about two other prog bands? What about two other prog bands that nobody talked about yet? What about, of course, Queensryche, and what about Sabotage? Like Sabotage from like Gutter Ballet forward, like Wake of Magellan and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I've got a couple Sabotage albums. I'm not too familiar with them, which is probably a horrible thing too. So I had Gutter Ballet and I had the Wake of Magellan, which was great. Queensryche was a huge influence on me. I don't know why I left them out. They were a massive influence on me when I was a kid. Operation Mindcrime was another one of those records that pretty much like changed the game for me. And this was before I even picked up an instrument. I was like, wow, I didn't think this was possible. Like there was The Wall, which I was familiar with, but Operation Mindcrime like took it to that next stage. Like it really felt like a movie. And I mean, like Sweet Sister Mary, things like that. I mean, like I was just like, oh my God, this is like amazing. And I liked Empire just as much. I know a lot of people like cut off Queensryche at Operation Mindcrime, and they're like, ever since Empire they started sucking. I liked Empire. I liked Here in the Now Frontier, which is also heresy. But everything after Here in the Now Frontier, I'm kind of like, like Q2K was the biggest disappointment for me of all time when it comes to a record.
Boring.
I think I liked one On the Right Side of My Mind, which is the last track on that record. And then everything after that, I didn't really care for. The last two records with Todd are pretty good, though. They're really solid.
Yeah, they're awesome. He saved that band.
For sure.
And Jeff Tate's doing good stuff on his own now, too. I mean, it turns out it was a good split. Yeah.
Jeff Tate recently has started sounding really great. I mean, I don't expect him to hit, like, the notes that he did from The Warning, but, like, his mid-range is really solid. His lows are really solid. The highs that he does hit, it's still there. He can't be as, consistent, so he's avoiding a lot of those notes, but he still sounds really good in the mid-range, which is really important because a lot of those guys from the, you've got like Don Dokken and things like guys like that who can't really sing in the mid-range at all. So that's kind of great that he still has his range. Obviously, he's not going to sound the same as he did when he was 20 years old, but who does?
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
He's really good with the band. He's really good with the band Avantasia.
Yeah, he sounded amazing with Avantasia.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I saw a video of him, I was like, wow, he can still do what he did. Like, it's very deceptive. You're like, why aren't you still doing that? I'm tired of these, I'm like, come on, Jeff, you can do better than that. But now he's touring. Oh, I guess he's not touring anymore because of COVID, but they were doing that whole like Empire Rage tour. And he sounded great. He sounded fantastic for that tour, which is great. Which is cool. I'm glad he's doing his own thing. Yeah.
I saw him at the start of the year. I saw him in January. He did a performance. He actually did Paranoid, so it wasn't like he was doing Queensryche. But yeah, he sounds great. So I'll kind of quiet some of the haters at least. But I think. But I was going to say let's get back to Shumaun. Let's get back to Farhad a little bit. It's cool geeking out about music. We could do this for the next 6 hours, and I'm sure the three of us could do that. But I want to. Because when you were talking, one thing, my two favorites from your debut are "We Always Disappear." Well, actually, let's focus on that song for a second because that is not a metal song by any stretch, but it's such a great groove. It's every time I put it on, it just immediately, or every time it comes on a playlist, whatever, immediately catches my attention. So you tell me a little bit about that one, about the vocals in that, where that song comes from.
So that song's basically a ripoff of Catatonia.
Sure, it's got some.
I was listening to a lot of Catatonia when I wrote that, so there's a Catatonia kind of vibe to it. As far as anything else, we've never played that song live. I remember we rehearsed it to play it live, and then I think the show was canceled or something happened, or there's all kind of logistical things that were like, okay, maybe we should replace this with another song. Which is kind of a shame because that's actually one of my favorite songs on the record as well. And and then what else can I say about that song? I have a guest vocalist on the record on that, a friend of mine, Dove Davis. We used to do some acoustic stuff together, and I really loved her voice, so I pulled her over to do it's not really a harmony, it's an octave above me in the verses. It's really subtle. In fact, Tyler and Jose didn't even know there was a guest singer on that record. until they read the credits and they're like, oh wow, I knew there was like I thought you were just doing like a falsetto, and I was like, no, that's another person. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can really say. But it's very Catatonia inspired for sure.
Yeah, I get that too, for sure. And then the other one I was going to mention, I'm sorry, what? Sorry?
With the poppy chorus.
Sure, yeah. And the other one I was going to mention was the Dream of the Sleeper, which, I mean, I assume most people say, wow, what a great song, because it just blows me away. All the different changes, all the different parts, all the elements. It's just, you know, the Indian vocals, it just knocks me out every time. It's a really beautiful song. So I think it's great. Can tell us how that came together, because it's a monster of a song. It's huge.
Yeah, you know, that one was a pain in the ass to write. So the problem with that is I never intend for a song to be so long. I generally want to keep it between 4 to 6 minutes tops. But that one just kept going. Like I kept coming up with parts, and I'm like, well, it fits. So instead of like limiting myself to what I should do or should not do, I just let it go, and I just kept writing parts. And my biggest concern was it never repeated. It just kind of went linearly from A to B. And you know, I played it for Jose, and he thought maybe I should include a chorus or something like that. So I reworked it a million times to try to bring a chorus in. The Indian stuff just kind of crept in, because I do listen to a lot of Indian, like classical music, Indian artists. So that kind of like dove into that. I also there's a sitar in the song as well. I had a friend play sitar on that track, and a friend that was playing tabla on it. It's proggy as hell, I guess. There's a lot of odd times in there, like polyrhythmic stuff. And lyrically, it's very spiritual in nature, about like, you know, transcending the self, fighting the ego, and kind of things like that. You know, like fighting your terrestrial needs to get some kind of spiritual. I'm lost of words. Some kind of spiritual like gratification. So it's about trying to defeat that. And I kind of related to like a relationship, male-female relationship, tied to my life. But yeah, it's a 13-minute song. We played that live a few times, and it goes over really well. So that's actually my favorite from the record. Which is funny, because basically the two that you picked out are two of my favorites from the record.
There you go. Yeah. So I got Rich. I'm sure you got questions. I have more, but yeah, go ahead, Rich. You got
tell us about the band name. What's Shumaun? Why?
Shumaun. Yes, that's a Sanskrit word. It pretty much means calm mind, peaceful mind. It's my name. It's my middle name. But I didn't want to like plaster my name on the record, because I didn't want people to just think this is me. Like, this is Shumaun, and I'm Shumaun. Like, I don't want to be like Bon Jovi or anything like that. So I just used my first and last name on that. But yeah, that's where it derived from. So basically, when I left Iris Divine, Shumaun was going to be my project. It was going to be the original solo project of mine. But it kind of like changed into this band.
Okay. Cool. Jack?
Well, you know, so I'm going to keep with the songs. You know, the second album, I think I even said this in my review. I think it was a lot more ambitious. You know, I think I could hear it. Like, there was kind of like this leitmotif that was repeated on the opening track, and that was repeated in the other closing epic on the title track. But tell us a little bit, I guess, just about the construction of that album, like how that songwriting came together, and how did you kind of end up saying, wait a minute, I'm going to reuse this, this piano line or this melody throughout the album?
Yeah. So that album kind of like stemmed from a lot of lyrics, because like I do write lyrics a lot, and handwritten lyrics. So stuff that inspired me in my life at that time. I wrote a lot, and so I noticed the theme, and I was like, hey, this kind of follows some kind of thematic story, not so much like a concept album like Operation Mindcrime, but a thematic concept album. So I just took those lyrics and used that to create music. And then a lot of the lyrics that came from those songs that I wrote musically was improv, actually. Like in the demos, I would just like whatever came to my mind. I would say about 45% of it was whatever I sang at the time, like right in the demos. Usually I'm just like making noises like na 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 na, and then I try to figure out what I try to make sense of, like, you know, what syllables make sense with a na na. Okay, maybe, I don't know, flower or something like that. So a lot of the lyrics kind of follow that theme. So I was like, okay, let me just make a concept album. And I came up with that keyboard motif. And to tie it together, kind of like, you know, a lot of those like concept albums that we all love, they have that theme that repeats. I took that motif and kind of brought it into the intro of the album, where it's just the piano. And then in the middle of the record, it's the guitar playing that line. And then at the very end, it's like the whole band playing it. So it was just kind of building on that theme. So One Day Closer to Yesterday, it's a concept about, it's quirky, I guess. It's about like these two souls or whatever that exist in this like this realm of pre-existence. And they're quite fond of one another, I guess. And then they're assigned to bodies in the terrestrial world. So when they are assigned bodies, one of the male figure remembers that time of pre-existence, whereas the female figure doesn't. So he knows they belong together, but because of like economic situations, all kinds of like, you know, the society itself didn't allow them to get together. No matter what, you know, they'll get together, but they'll fall apart, break up, infidelity, things like that, all kinds of stuff that, you know, like plague relationships nowadays. So then at the end, they end up not together, but like there's a calming of the mind, knowing that they'll reunite again. And when they return to that it's not pre-existence anymore, but that realm where they existed prior to being assigned to bodies on Earth. Kind of quirky, but I basically just utilize a lot of reoccurring themes in relationships and modern relationships, things that make them work and things that, you know, make them go pretty bad fast. So a lot of the songs are related to relationships, and that's pretty much the theme from the beginning to the end. Birth.
You know, it's great. The metaphysical stuff, the depth. I think it's great. You know, you could be just thinking about like driving around picking up chicks, or you know, thinking about something that has actual kind of meaning.
And that, I guess it's like a.
Well, I guess in a way
of saying, "Hey, baby."
You guys are frozen on my end, so I'll let Rich take the next question.
That's probably good.
You're good. You're not frozen.
All right, we're back. I think I have a wonky connection. So,
are you aware of the Prog Power Festival in Georgia?
Yes, I am.
You are. Have you ever gone? Have you tried getting on that festival?
I've never gone. I've emailed the organizers once to nothing. I don't. A lot of those bands now, I guess they're more of the Prog Power stuff, which I don't know if we are so much. I would love to play it. I don't know how much we'd fit into that.
I think it'd fit perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not deny it. I'll tell you that. I would love to play Prog Power, and that's one of the biggest, you know, festivals in the area for this kind of music. So I would love to. But yeah, if you know anybody, let me know. I'd love to.
Yeah. I think you just got to get on their radar, because I think you guys would probably be great to be like a mid-card band, or to start off a day or something like that for that audience.
Yeah. To go back to talking about bands, Pain of Salvation, I think that was the first show they played in America.
Yes, I saw that actually. I went to that. I went that year because they had Ed Guy, Blind Guardian, Gamma Ray, and Angra.
Oh, wow.
So those four, I was like, I'm there.
Yeah, that's an awesome show. I mean, Pain of Salvation is another one I left out. Those guys were pretty big on, you know.
Yeah, I didn't know them at the time, you know.
Yeah,
I didn't know about.
Not many people did.
Yeah. But when they landed those four big bands, I was like, I got to be there, because that was that wave in the '90s that came out of those power metal bands that were keeping the traditional metal alive. So aside from those guys, Stradivarius, Iced Earth, they're all part of that family. So when they got that first American show, I was like, I got to go to that. That festival is great for doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have a bunch of friends that go out like every year. You know, sadly, of course, COVID, you know, changed things up this year. But
they had to cancel or postpone till next year.
Yeah, right. Let's see what happens.
Apparently, there's an end in sight for them. They might not continue. So hopefully, if they have to stop doing that, hopefully it'll keep going in some form. But yeah, I agree with Rich. I think you guys would be a great fit.
Yeah, you know, the sad thing about, you know, like, you know, hopefully they can prevail and continue the tradition of playing of holding this festival every year. But like venues in the DC area are just they're just drifting away, collapsing, going out of business. Just one recently, 2 weeks ago, Club Eclipse, which is the place we played our CD release show for One Day Closer to Yesterday, that's no longer. So even playing locally now is going to be even harder because there's no clubs to play at anymore. Like all of the, you know, right now they're closed. So, I mean, those guys are just pretty much going to shut down. I don't think they're going to prevail at all after this, you know, and who knows if this crisis is going to ease up in the fall or if there's going to be a second wave, a third wave. And at that point, you know, we have no idea what to expect. So, but I can imagine the clubs are just going to be shutting down left and right. And we're doing a lot of live streams, I guess.
Yeah. More quarantine covers, I guess. Well, I got two more.
80s music.
I get every song that was in the Billboard Hot 100. I got two more things I want to kind of ask. So tell us a little bit about the other guys in the band. You know, you've mentioned their names a little bit, but just tell us, I guess, introduce us since they're not here. Introduce us to everyone in the band. Tell us.
Lazy bastards, they should be here next to me. No.
The hell.
So Jose, who plays bass, I've known him since high school. We met working at AMC movie theaters, making nachos. And we were just talking about, like, he knew about me, I knew about him, and he was just like, hey, you like bands like Rush, right? And I was like, yeah. And they knew when you're a kid, you know, most of the people aren't really listening to Rush. They're listening to, you know, whatever's popular at the time. So, you know, I was like, wow, you know, yes, Pink Floyd, that's amazing. So we bonded really quickly. And, you know, we became like best of friends from that point on and have been playing in bands since then. He's been in bands with me. I mean, so I was in a band called Encompass prior to Iris Divine. He was the bass player for that. And then obviously carried over to Shumaun. Tyler, who plays rhythm guitar in the band, I've known him since 7th grade. So we go back like before I even picked up a guitar. And we kind of learned to play guitar around the same time as well. And he was always around for all of the bands I was in during high school, you know, university and beyond. It kind of made sense to finally have him in my band rather than just kind of being around. So when I started Shumaun, it was supposed to be like an indie rock thing. I didn't even want to do anything metal because it was when I left Iris Divine, I kind of had with the prog thing. So I was like, yeah, great, Tyler, you can be in this band. It'll be what you want to play. And then it slowly transitioned back into like a prog thing. Because before the first album came out, I had a whole album that was completely different. But then like the prog thing kind of bit me again. And I was like, wait, I'm starting to write prog stuff. I don't want to release this like CeeLo Green kind of material and then go into a prog outfit later. So I was like, let me just push that aside and we'll do like the hard rock thing. And Tyler was like, dude, playing Odd Times, isn't that what I signed up for? Like, what the hell? But he stuck on, and he's pulling it off quite well. Dunveer, I've been playing drums. I mean, I've been playing drums. He's been playing drums in my bands for years, too. Encompass, he was our drummer. Iris Divine, he was our drummer. When I left Iris Divine, he left shortly after, and he joined me on Shumaun. So I met him off a Craigslist ad way back in like 2005 or 2006. And he's been playing drums since then, really.
Wow. And he didn't stab you to death. You met him on Craigslist and he didn't stab you. That's impressive. Yeah.
So I was like, because, you know, you don't get each other's names on Craigslist. So he signed, you know, like, yeah, I'm into like Virgil Donati and all these, you know, these crazy technical drummers. And then he signed his name like, you know, Dunveer. And I was like, Dunveer? I was like, that's an odd name. I was like, I was like, where are you from? And he was like, well, originally from Bangladesh. And I was like, wow, you know, that's great. So am I, like, you know, and like, I was like, you know, I've never really met a great Bangladeshi drummer in this area. He's probably going to suck. It's my own biases against my own people. And then I met him, and it's funny because when he tried out, he was playing very jazz fusion-y, and me and Jose were looking at each other like, this isn't gonna work. Like, he's a jazz drummer, we're like a metal band. But he really wanted to be in the band. He goes like, give me one more try. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And we don't have anybody else anyway. So he came back the following week and just slayed it. Like, it was just like night and day. His double bass was like perfectly on the beat. We come across a lot of drummers that try to play outside of their ability. Like, they'll do like the quadruplets and all these crazy sextuplets, and they're just like noise. Like, it's not really split up evenly. It's just a bunch of slop. And we came across so many drummers like that who just try to play stuff that's beyond their ability. And this guy played all of that stuff perfectly, and we're just like, wow, this guy's amazing. He was doing things like polyrhythmic things. I'm playing 5/4 with my left hand, like 7/8 with my feet, and 4/4 with my right hand. I'm just like, that like opens up so many new possibilities for me to write, because I can write things like tied to just one part of your body. This is amazing. So one of the best drummers I've ever worked with, honestly. And Jose is, one of the most melodic bass players I've ever worked with, which is awesome, because these are people I call friends. So that kind of works out. It's not just bandmates.
Yeah, cool.
That's that. But they're little bastards.
Right.
This album should be recorded and done now, but everybody's scared of COVID. Just
And you mentioned Encompass. I think we talked a little bit offline. So you actually opened up for some other previous guests of ours. You've opened up for Symphony X. You've opened up for some pretty cool, like Seven Witches. You mentioned, right?
Seven Witches. So that band, there was a really thriving scene when Encompass was formed. So we opened up for a lot of bands, like a lot of those European power metal bands we opened for. And so outside of Symphony X, we've opened for I think it was Camelot. We've opened for Sonata Arctica.
Nice.
That whole slew of bands that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
So Seven Witches, we opened for them when James Rivera was the singer. So, but James Rivera and I, we actually exchanged numbers at that time. And we actually were in touch for a while, and he wanted to bring us over to Houston. But then eventually we just, it just stopped. And I haven't spoken to him in years. We are Facebook friends, so maybe I should be like, hey, remember me? Like, I played.
We just interviewed him last week. We spoke to him last week. Yeah, we did an interview.
I saw you guys' interview with him, so I actually, just to get a vibe of, how this was going to go. He's such a great guy. He's so awesome. But yeah, so two birds with one stone. Jack Frost and James Rivera at one show, and Encompass opened for them. It was a great show. Those guys are awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, I'm going to ask one more, and then I'll let Rich ask a couple. So I think we've talked about a little bit about the previous two albums. So what is in store? I know that there's COVID and all these problems with that are delays on album number 3, but tell us about Shumaun's third album.
Yeah, so the third album is called Memories and Intuition. It's another thematic album, not really conceptual, but lyrically another thing. So usually, like, when I'm writing, so this album I wrote really quickly. I think I wrote all of the songs in a period of like 3 months or so, 3 or 4 months. And that's both lyrically and musically. So when I'm usually writing, I'm usually in the same frame of mind in certain periods of time. And so I just kind of like wrote everything at once. So thematically, they're all kind of related. Again, mostly like relationship kind of things, female, male, however you want to relate to another person, romantically or otherwise. So lyrically, there's a lot of that, a lot of the same thematic themes, spiritual, uplifting lyrics, trying to break from, the ego and, kill that side of you to reach out into more of a spiritual plane. There's 12 songs on there. A lot of them are shorter. There is like a song that's 9 minutes, but there's no like 15-minute epic song on there. A lot more of the Tears for Fears influences have made their way on this one. I don't know how it's going to be received. There's a lot of catchy poppy stuff in there. But the prog stuff is still in there. There's still odd times and things like that. But it's definitely more easy on the ear for a casual listener. There are 3 instrumentals, which is kind of odd, but it's just what naturally like came out. Hopefully it will be out the first half of 2021. I'm hoping. We'll see what COVID does. If things get too bad, I'll try to find a way to get drums recorded remotely. But I think it's my favorite one, and that's the most cliched thing anybody can ever say. But I do prefer the first album more than the second album, so I'll put that up there. But I think the third, for me, is better than the first 2. But that's not for me to decide, really. I can't even listen to the first 2 records, honestly. So after I release a record, I can't even listen to it because I've listened to it so many times. And when I listen to it, it like puts me in that place of when I wrote it. And generally, those aren't good times because I only write when I'm down or when I'm happy. There's no need for me to write anything. So when I listen to it, it'll take me back to that frame of mind. I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that. So I just will look ahead. Occasionally, I'll listen to it and be like, okay, this is good, or wow, I can't believe I did this. This is really bad. But yeah, sometimes I find it pretty difficult to listen to the stuff I've already released.
That's actually interesting. And I'll just because it's all about me. I'll say, when I listen to my old stuff that I've recorded in the past, what I hear is, oh my God, I missed that note completely. And other people are like, oh, your solo sounded great. So do you get that too?
Yeah, I think most musicians will do that. You never want to release it. Like, there's always something to change, or like, am I flat on this? Maybe I can sing it a little better. And then like right now we're living in a world where music is so perfect that like for me, like I grew up in the time when people sang and there wasn't like auto tune and all that stuff. So anytime I hear a perfectly sung vocal track, for me, I'm like, is that auto tune? Or sometimes like I'll sing something and it'll sound auto tune for some strange reason, and I want to get away from that, even though it's not auto tune. So it's so. Like if I didn't set personal dates, I would never release a record because I would always constantly revise things, or like, oh, maybe I can do that better, or maybe I should change the lyric. Like going back, I can read some of these lyrics and I'm like, wow, that's horrible, or like, wow, that was really good. Like, what got me to write that? But at that point, I'm just like, let the world decide if it sucks or not. Luckily, you guys liked it, so that's good enough for me. Like. It was received well, so I'm very humble that people actually listen to it at all, for that matter.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I've asked a bunch. So, Rich, we're getting near the end of our time. Rich, you take us maybe take us out a little bit.
What would be your what would be on your rider if you were a rock star?
Not much, man.
You could if you could just have your time as Dream Theater or Queensryche in their heyday or something, and you're opening for Iron Maiden or somebody, and you guys can do what you want, and you can put what you want on your rider, what would you be going for?
Dude, if I was in that stage, it wouldn't be Dream Theater and Queensryche. It'd be like Van Halen and like Motley Crue. No, I'm just kidding.
That's cool. So you're going for the LA glam rider.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay. So what would be on your glam rider then? If you're going on the Sunset Strip, all the chicks and the sex and the drugs and rock and roll.
Dude, I'd have to have like the perfect pair of spandex, and they have to be different at every venue, like a different animal print, like at
That's
every
awesome.
venue. Like, wait a minute, zebra, I wore this like a week ago. Like, who do I fire? For sure.
Somebody's got to run out and buy leopard print immediately. That's awesome.
What else you got on there?
So no, so realistically, like. Like a bottle of water is like all I would need. Like, I can have a bottle of water in my room. That that's pretty much all I'd need, really. But I'd like to think that hookers and drugs would be a part of it. But knowing me, it would just be a bottle of water. Yeah.
Yeah. Like not a fancy bottle of wine, or like a ride on a yacht after the show or something.
Like, if you can just put like room temperature tap water in a plastic bottle, I'm good to go, man. And I can I'm trying to think if anybody had like a specific request, it would be Tanvir, our drummer. He would have like a list of things, I think, more than anybody else. I'm not going to speak for him and say what was on that list, but he would be the guy. He would be the guy with the writer that's like, all right, on page 3, it says, you know, whatever, you know. Yeah, but me, I'm pretty simple. The rest of the guys, you know, we'd be happy if they even asked us for a writer. We'd be like, holy crap, we made it, dude. Right. Yeah, good times.
There, see, venue owner should be listening to this and saying, "Hey, you know, we're gonna book these guys. All they want is a bottle of water. They don't want
book Shumaun, man. We're low maintenance. You know, bottle water. We'll bring our own bottle of water for God's sake. You know, just give us shows."
Yeah, I guess I was gonna ask. I mean, maybe this would be a good. Tell us a little bit about. I mean, you touched on this a little bit about the DC area scene. Like, what is the club scene? It sounds like you guys have some friends on that scene. Like, what is it like when we're not in a world-ending pandemic? You know, what is it like there?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the scenes that come and go. Right now, we're like on the decline. Eventually, I'm hoping there's a scene that develops again. And there's some great bands in the area. You know, Dean Michaels asked a question. He's a guitar player. He plays for Novarium. They're a fantastic band. Obviously, Iris Divine, local prog metal band, they're doing their thing. They're working on their 3rd album as well. It's a very incestuous community, for better or worse. Like Iris Divine, they just announced a new drummer, and his name is Scott Manley, and he auditioned for Shumaun like way back when. So it's like this weird incestual thing. Other bands, Never Elected is a great band. I produce some of their music. They're you know, like a hard. They're kind of like Guns N' Roses, but they have some prog elements in it. Division is the thrash metal band in the area. They're fantastic. They've been around forever. Brave, who we wanted to tour with, they're a prog rock band. Silence the Blind, a really heavy band. There's a ton of bands. Sound of Thunder, I'm sure you guys probably know them as well. And then you expand a little bit more. There are bands like Mind Maze.
We know that. I know those guys. Yeah.
And I think they were supposed to play Prog Power this year, which kind of sucks because I was so happy for them. But you know, obviously, hopefully they get that chance next year. But there's some great bands, but the scene is pretty dead, man. And I can imagine after this COVID crisis thing is over, if it is, there's going to be even less clubs out there. So there's going to be a lot of like, you know, house shows and things like that. Maybe people will get in fields and get generators and things like that. It's looking pretty grim. I'm all right in the studio. Like, you know, I do like the live scenario because you get that circle completes. You know, you're in isolation in the studio, and when you're playing live, you get that interaction to see how things are going with the crowd, and it completes that circle. But I'm pretty introverted as well, so I'm okay being stuck. Like this quarantine thing has been a walk in the park. Like, you know, I've been working on music, just chilling out in my studio, occasionally getting food, and I'm okay with that. You know, so some of my other friends, you know, the more extroverted characters, they are suffering big time for sure.
All right. So. Well, like I said, I've asked a bunch of questions, but I just want to say, you know, Rich, I don't know if you guys, I'll let you guys kind of take us out. I will say, Farhad, thank you guys so much. I'm really looking forward to the 3rd Shumaun album. Hopefully early next year. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And to say it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on, taking an hour to talk to us.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do it again towards the end of the year, maybe when the music's getting finished up or something. We'll do another talk.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. And definitely shoot you the record when it's out or before it's out, so you can hopefully get another review. That'd be fantastic.
Are you shopping it maybe to a label, or are you just keeping it independent again?
I might look around. Usually, like before a record, before we're ready to release a record, I'll reach out to a few labels here and there. I'm not too hopeful, especially post-COVID. I'm sure labels are suffering, you know, more now than ever before, for that matter. I'll probably reach out to one or two, but I'm, you know, I've got it pretty much set in my mind that we are a DIY band, and that's how we're just going to continue. I have no problem with that as long as we can find distribution. And you know,
Yeah.
we'll reach out to PR companies for sure. I think that's more important to get some kind of promotion out there. Otherwise, you're just releasing a record to like, you know, 5 or 6 people of your closest friends and family, and that you know, that'd be a waste for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's how you guys even discovered of the band, is we were working with PR, and they probably guided to us.
Jack, do you remember who you got it from at that time then?
No, I apologize.
It's probably Freeman Promotions.
Okay.
Probably. We do work a lot with John Freeman.
Yeah, we still get stuff from him all the time.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We work with him, you know. So yeah, possibly. I apologize to whoever it was, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm sure that's how we ended up.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh, sure. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks again, everyone. Check out Shumaun. You know, you really great band, and check out their music. It's kind of there's something for everyone.
2 albums to check out.
Albums, working on 3. Thank you guys so much for having me, and it was an honor. Cool. Thanks for even thinking about me, man. That means a lot for sure.
Of course. All right. Thanks. We're gonna end our broadcast. We also do this awkwardly. Ending.
Goodbye.
Bye.